that's not better. Why did I do that? Good enough. I don't care. Hello, everybody. I guess I don't have anything to say. So today we are talking about a cult in America. We haven't done a cult in a while. So we are back with another cult video. And today we are talking about Heaven's Gate. And I know that I've already talked about this on the channel once with the man who shall not be named, but we're gonna do it again. Yeah, she's better. So we're gonna do it again and it's gonna be better, and then I'm deleting that video.
Okay. Hi. Okay.
Oppa.
Marshall Applewhite was born on May 17th, 1931, and he attended several universities and served in the U.S. Army. He first had a career in education and resigned from the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas in 1970. Allegedly was having a relationship with one of his students. A year later, his father died, leaving him severely depressed. I thought it was going to say leaving him a bunch of money, and that's not what it said.
Nope.
In 1972, he met Bonnie Nettles, who was born in 1927. At the time, she was a 44-year-old married nurse, and they first met in the hospital where she worked. She was interested in theosophy and biblical prophecy. Applewhite later said he felt like he had known Nettles for a long time and came to the conclusion that they had met in a past life. She told him their meeting had been foretold by extraterrestrials, persuading him that he had a divine assignment.
So really, the beginning is, did you say touchdown?
Sure did.
So it really started with him. You know, there's not much about his background, but you know, you could tell from the very beginning that there was something off about him, especially like with him he had that career in education and then he gets kicked out because he's allegedly sleeping with a student. Like, you know, from the very beginning when you start hearing things about him, you're like, this guy seems kind of off. Like, you know, when you just hear about a guy and you're like, that's not a guy I want to talk to. That's what it seemed. And then, you know, he goes throughout his course of life, his dad dies. He must have been really close to his dad, I'm not for sure. And then, you know, he meets Bonnie Nettles and she's working at a hospital, and I get that you meet people and you feel like you've known them literally your entire life, but for that to start happening, it's like, what? Like, this was foretold? You're part of a biblical prophecy. Like, if someone walked up to me and was like, hey, you were destined to be in my life because there's a biblical prophecy about this, I'd be like, what?
Go home.
Are you on crack? Do I need to take you somewhere? Oh, that sounded bad. Not to like a hotel or anything, but to like rehab. And so this relationship between these two started, and it only gets worse, as most cults do, as all cults do actually. They began working together in their prophecy studies, is what they called it. They pondered the life of St. Francis of Assisi. Pretty sure I'm saying that right. Don't know for sure. For sure. Because Assisi. It sounds like Assisi. He was the Catholic friar who founded the Franciscans. There's a lot of S's and C's in there. They read works by Helena Blavatsky, R.D. Lang, and Richard Bach. They shared a King James Bible, and they would take turns studying passages out of the New Testament. They focused on Christology, asceticism, and eschatology. I don't know if I'm saying all of that right. I'm sorry. Christology is the study of Christ. That sounds pretty self-explanatory. Asceticism is a lifestyle characterized by abstinence of sensual pleasure for the purpose of pursuing spiritual goals. I guess they don't get laid. From what I understand by reading about it is that you don't do the naughty and then you can accomplish your spiritual goals. That's what I'm getting from it.
The sun got so bright it's hurting my eyeballs.
Eschatology is a branch of study within Christian theology dealing with the doctrine of the last things, which is the end times and the second coming of Christ, like the book of Revelation, all that jazz. Applewhite also read a lot of science fiction, and they were mainly by Robert A. Heinlein and Arthur C. Clarke. their studies, their little discussions, they came to the conclusion, in the end, they decided they had been chosen to fulfill biblical prophecies and that they had been given higher level minds than other people. What?
Okay.
I feel like someone would have told you a long time ago if you were to fill a biblical prophecy. I don't think that's something you can come up with on your own. Together, they wrote a pamphlet that described Jesus' reincarnation as a Texan. And that was referring to Applewhite because he's from Texas. So basically, he is the reincarnation of Jesus. They also came to the conclusion that they were the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, which, like I said, is the end times. At this time, they started referring to themselves as the two or the UFO two. Because now they're bringing UFOs into it, and I have no idea what their thought process was to get to that point. Like, they believed they would be killed and then resurrected and transported onto a spaceship with others watching. And they called that whole process the demonstration. All of this information, this all happened between the time that they met and June 19th. They had discovered all of this. So from March to June, they had a lot of free time, I guess. I don't know. Other religions, they were not very accepting of what they were thinking and wanting to do. Because, you know, if you see a person walking down the street and he comes up to you and he goes, "Hey, I'm the reincarnation of Jesus," they're gonna be
Nice.
like, "What?
Good for you, man.
You need to go home."
The first follower. In May of 1974, they gained their first follower, Sharon Morgan. She abandoned her children to join the group. Oh, she sounds like a great person. She left the group 1 month later and went back to her family. The two were arrested and charged with credit card fraud for using Morgan's card even though she consented to the use. Later, the charges were dropped. A routine check showed that Applewhite had stolen a rental car from St. Louis 9 months earlier, which was still in his possession. He spent 6 months in jail in Missouri, and in early 1975, he was released and rejoined Nettles.
I mean, I'm glad Morgan. I'm glad she came to her senses at least, but why the hell would you abandon your family in the first... Why would you
abandon your family?
Yeah, why did you do that in the first place? Like, what the heck?
What the hell, Morgan?
She left, and they were left with just themselves. They were left without each other for 6 months because he went to jail. And then they reunited, and then they decided they needed to grow their following. They decided that they wanted to start contacting the extraterrestrials. And to do that, they needed like-minded followers.
I hate people.
I just have no words for what the heck. They started publishing advertisements for meetings that they were going to start holding. They would bring in new members, and they called their little group the Crew. You joined and you were part of the Crew. I feel like they could have come up with something a lot more creative though. If you're going on about aliens and being abducted and stuff like that, you can come up with something better than the Crew. Like, come on. At the meetings, they claimed to represent beings from another planet, which they called the Next Level.
Now we're playing video games.
And they were seeking these participants, they called them participants, to partake in their experiment that they wanted to do. They told these members, the Crew, that if they decided to participate, that they would be brought to a higher level of existence. And then there was all of this talk about going to a higher evolutionary level, basically the evolved version of a human. I've been playing Pokemon a lot, so I said evolved. You know what you evolve into after human? Death. Like, that just feels like a warning that you're gonna die. In April 1975, they joined a meeting led by Clarence Klug and ended up with about 25 new members to the Crew. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Tim.
You wanna hear a cult not so fun fact?
I sure do.
Okay. The Next Level, which is what we were talking about, was a place without gender, and that led to castration. Applewhite and other members underwent the procedure to help ensure they remained celibate. Applewhite, who had been fired as a music professor at the University of St. Thomas in 1970 after administrators learned he had sex with a male student, sought cures for his homosexual urges. He wanted to find a way to have platonic relationships where he could develop his full potential without sexual entanglements. Applewhite believed he could make that easier. Ultimately, the group instituted a strict no sex, no human level relationships, and no socializing rule.
At least they couldn't reproduce, I guess. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Jam.
Hi, Jam. You want to hear a Colt Not So Fun fact?
Yes, I do.
Alright, here we go. So first of all, in the crew, they all had to wear the exact same thing. They had to have the same haircut, same shoes, everything like carbon copies. The Nikes that the group wore have become a collector's item. When the Heaven's Gate members were discovered, they were all wearing identical black and white Nike Decade sneakers, and the company soon discontinued the style due to its macabre associations. An unworn pair was discovered in a storage unit in Arizona and is up for auction on eBay, asking $6,660, bearing Applewhite's face as part of its advertising. And it says Nike didn't exactly appreciate the free advertising.
To even further how strict it was, they also had to eat the same exact food, the same exact portions. Everything had to be the same. Like, for a while, all they drank together was lemonade.
I've been mad about that. I don't like lemonade that much.
Me either. Like, that is so sugary.
The Vanishing. In September of 1975, Applewhite and Nettles were preaching at a motel hall in Waldport, Oregon. They sold all their worldly possessions and said goodbye to their loved ones. Around 20 people disappeared from the public eye and joined the crew. The disappearance ended up being talked about on CBS Evening News. The group went underground. Applewhite and Nettles started going by T and Doe. They led nearly 100 members across the country, slept in tents, and begged on the streets. They managed to be undetected by police. Applewhite believed that he was directly related to Jesus, evolutionary kingdom level above human. He taught his followers that his body or vehicle was inhabited by the same alien spirit that belonged to Jesus. Nettles was presented as God the Father.
Instead of calling bodies, like, they would call their bodies vehicles.
Why wouldn't you say vessels? Isn't that the normal thing?
They decided to call it vehicles, even though, you know, vehicles have wheels and humans definitely don't have wheels, and they didn't have no wheels underground. It's so weird trying to decipher what the hell he actually meant, because there was no alien spirit in Jesus. Like, aliens do not possess people. So I don't know what the hell he was going on about, because, like, if he said soul, you know.
What the hell are you going on about? Who put this man in charge?
For real, like, if you or me had a guy come up to us and start acting like that, being like, hey, the alien spirit who was in Jesus, he's in me. And then this woman, she's God. I'd probably kick you in the nuts and go home, man. Like, I can't deal with
You didn't have any nuts.
In April 1976, the group stopped accepting new members and they started becoming a lot more reclusive. This is when they set a very, very strict set of rules that each member had to follow. No sexual activity and no drug use was the main two. But it really seemed like they were all on something. Especially that Applewhite. There's something wrong with him. Benjamin Zeller said, they transformed from a loosely organized social group to a centralized religious movement comparable to a roving monastery. Basically, he was saying they made a very drastic change in a short period of time, like overnight difference. Much of the crew came from diverse backgrounds like Judaism, Catholicism, and evangelical Christianity. They were described as longtime truth seekers or spiritual hippies. For a while, they began identifying themselves as the higher source, and that was in the early 1990s. And they went through a lot of name changes over the period of time, but you know, finally it got settled on Heaven's Gate. That's what it was called when shit hit the fan.
Losing Nettles. In 1983, she had to have an eye removed due to cancer. Her doctor said it was already spreading through her body. She said her doctor was ignorant. What?
You have cancer and it's spreading through your body. You're fucking ignorant.
You're stupid, man. I'm out of here. I thought I said something wrong and didn't even notice. I was like, what?
It just makes me laugh that she's like, at the doctor and they're like, you have cancer and it's spreading through your body. We even have to remove one of your eyes. And she's like, you're ignorant. You got no idea what you're talking about. Like, that's not what's happening, because I am the witness from the book of Revelation. Like, I'm supposed to be here. This is part of a biblical prophecy. You can't tell me that I got cancer, because I don't.
She believed she couldn't die because that wasn't part of the prophecy. Good luck with that. Tell me how it works out for you. The cancer spread to her liver and she died on June 19th, 1985. Who's ignorant now? Applewhite had to convince his followers that he wasn't a liar, saying Nettles' vehicle broke down and was left behind. He said Nettles left because her work was done on this level, but he was still there because he had more to do and she would be helping him from the next level.
You know, I bet that caused so much confusion to the crew, because, you know, they joined thinking that these two were from the biblical prophecy, which means that they were there to fulfill that prophecy and they could not die or leave this earth until that happened. And so the fact that they were saying that there's this whole demonstration that's going to be done involving apples
involving apples. They're gonna demonstrate involving apples. Let me show you where to put this apple. I was really confused. I was like, I guess she's gonna keep going.
Got myself. What was I saying?
I don't know. Something about demonstrating apples.
But it involved Applewhite and Nettles together. And so the fact that she died, they were really confused, because they, you know, they went to Applewhite and they were like, what the heck? You said you were part of a prophecy. And he had to come up with this excuse, this new information. Like, you could literally tell that he was trying to cover his ass because his members were gonna leave. Because, you know, I felt like that was the moment that they could have been like, you are lying. You are a liar. But instead, he like spun this story that her work was done and her vehicle had just been used up. And with all of that happening, it leads to the end of Heaven's Gate. In October 1996, they rented a massive home in Rancho Santa Fe, California. They called it the Monastery. So it's just a massive building called the Monastery that everyone lived in. That month, they purchased alien abduction insurance.
Oh my god.
That is a real thing for those who don't know. There is actually alien abduction insurance in this world. What does it do, you ask? It covers up to 50 members, and it will pay out $1 million in the case of abduction, impregnation, or death by aliens. It covers those. I kind of want to see someone get impregnated by an alien.
Death by aliens.
This has been around for quite a while, and many people have gotten it, but, you know, no one has ever been paid out the $1 million.
I would have thought of that. People just giving me money in case they get abducted by aliens, and then if they're like, I got abducted by aliens, I'd be like, prove it.
Prove it.
Can't have the money unless you prove it.
On March 19th and March 20th, Applewhite started recording this tape, and he called it Doe's Final Exit.
This is March 19, 1997. I'm Doe. That's not my name, but that's how I'm referred to on planet Earth. Let me say that our mission here at this time is about to come to a close in the next few days.
He spoke about the only way that you could leave this Earth. He explained that the comet Hale-Bopp was the sign that they had been looking for, because there was actually a UFO trailing the comet, and that UFO was going to take them all up with them and take them to the next level and basically drop them off so they could be with Nettles. But the thing is, how did Nettles already get there if she was dead and no UFO came to get her? And Applewhite told his followers that basically your souls are going to be taken to another level of existence that is so much higher, and it is only achievable by dying. 38 members taped their farewell videos.
The mass suicide. To get to the next level, they had to prepare for a ritual suicide. Members took phenobarbital mixed with applesauce or pudding and washed it down with vodka. And then they secured plastic bags around their heads to induce asphyxiation. They were all dressed in identical black shirts and sweatpants with brand new black and white Nike Decades. They all wore armband patches saying Heaven's Gate Away Team.
That was like a reference from like Star Trek or something. Applewhite really liked that, and so he used a lot of references in his life.
I've never seen it.
Me either.
Each had a $5 bill and 3 quarters in their pockets. After each member died, a living member would arrange the body by removing the plastic bag from the person's head and pose the body so it was laying neatly on its own bed. Faces and torsos were covered by a square of purple cloth for privacy. 21 women and 18 men between the ages of 26 and 72 are believed to have died in 3 groups over 3 consecutive days. Applewhite was the third to last to die. Before the last 2 died, similar sets of packages were sent out to numerous Heaven's Gate affiliated individuals and one media outlet. Rio D'Angelo received this package on March 25th in the evening.
Rio D'Angelo was a former cult member who ended up leaving the group. Probably got sent to him because they were like, look what we did. We did it.
The packages had 2 VHS tapes, Doe's Final Exit, and the farewell messages from members, and a letter saying, "We have exited our vehicles just as we entered them." He told his boss about it and they went to the house. The back door was intentionally left unlocked and they went in with a video camera to document the evidence. The police were called and nobody was found alive.
Just imagine the smell in there. He's a character. Like, if you convince a bunch of people to kill themselves, is that still murder?
It's probably some form of
homicide?
Yeah.
Let me know what you guys think of that cult. That's a doozy, and I'm a little overwhelmed by it, if you can't tell. Here's my life advice. Don't join a cult and don't castrate yourself. But also, more life advice, like and comment, subscribe.
And you could also turn on your notifications and then you'll get notified when she posts.
That's terrifying.
That's what I do. Every time she posts, it goes, "New video!"